In this video, I want to review Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. I actually really like the movie. It takes guts to make such a big and epic movie. I think we need more movies like this that really dare to be big and epic. I kind of felt like watching Lord of the Rings for the first time, or that Indian movie RRR. What I really liked about the movie is that Nolan decided to use almost exclusively practical effects, so there was really no CGI. Now, when it comes to the critique that many things were not historically accurate, so the Odyssey is set in the era of the Bronze Age collapse, 1200 years before Christ, and the armor was not historically accurate and some other things, but okay, I actually was not bothered by that. I think that creative liberties are okay. Also, in some aspects, Nolan makes the story of the Odyssey different. I'm actually surprised by the fact that I didn't actually see many reviewers discuss the ending. The fact that the ending is different than in the real Odyssey. I'll tell you my take on the ending in a moment at the end of this video. But yeah, the movie actually is very accurate to the real Odyssey. I read it in high school, and yeah, of course, there are some changes, but all the main themes of the Odyssey, all the main events of the Odyssey are preserved. Now, one way of looking at the fact that the movie was not super historically accurate is just by saying that the Odyssey take place in the mythical world. It's not actually set in the real world. But other than that, I would like to focus on the content of the story. I'm really not that bothered by which actor is playing what character, given the fact that none of them were Greek, and given the fact that ancient Greeks aren't here to play themselves, So there's nothing wrong with us in our modern era, just let's say pretending that actors are certain characters. But yeah, so what I really liked about this movie is the visuals. The score is brilliant, but one actually aspect of the movie that I really liked is that the movie obviously has this anti-war message. So Christopher Nolan here combines the Iliad and the Odyssey, and there are even some parts that are actually in the Aeneid, like the Fall of Troy. Now, what's interesting, one could argue that Nolan is giving the Odyssey this modern spin by making it anti-war. To an extent, that is true. But what's also interesting is that many historians actually consider the Iliad to be the first anti-war story. The reason many historians argue that the Iliad is actually the first anti-war story is because in the book 6 of the Homer Iliad, there are two Greek champions that refuse to fight each other when they meet on the battlefield. There is the Greek champion Diomedes and a Trojan ally, Glacius. They decide to actually not fight. They exchange their armor and swear not to fight if they meet each other again on the battlefield, because they realize that their grandparents, their grandfathers, were actually bound by an ancient tie of guest friendship. They were friends. I definitely do think that it makes sense to say that there is an anti-war element even in the original Iliad. But okay, there obviously are some modern perspectives in this movie, which is not bad. We are watching this movie as people in a modern world. So the main difference actually between the real Odyssey and Christopher Nolan's Odyssey is the ending. Okay, so in order to explain the ending, let me now spoil the movie for you. So in Christopher Nolan's Odyssey, this idea is present that it was immoral for Odysseus to use the Trojan horse. That idea is actually not present in the real Odyssey, but Roman historians actually did consider the Greeks immoral for using the Trojan horse. Vergilius considers that immoral, while Greek historians actually see the Trojan horse as a brilliant trick and they don't see it as something immoral. I do think that Christopher Nolan almost intentionally, I would even argue, compares the Trojan horse with the atomic bomb in a way, because his movie before this was Oppenheimer. But yeah, now we can discuss, was the Trojan horse actually moral? What's your take about that? You can tell me in the comment section. I do think that that's actually a very complex question. And even ancient historians also actually disagree about this. Was it immoral to use the Trojan horse or not? But nonetheless, in this movie, it is seen as something immoral. And Odysseus, in order to pay for his sins, he feels guilt. He actually, at the very ending, after defeating the suitors and taking his throne, which is how the original Odyssey ends, here he decides to exile himself and put his son on the throne. Now, am I bothered by this ending? Not actually. I think it's interesting, although I actually don't think that the movie would lose much if they just kept the original ending. You can tell me in the comment section which ending would you prefer, the original or this one. And upon actually closer reflection on the ending, to me it actually seems that Christopher Nolan here is inspired by his own Batman movie, where Batman is a hero at the end that is in a way exiled. He's the hero we need, but then he needs to actually be exiled from civil society because of the violence that he uses, which is actually often a theme we see in Western movies, like the Magnificent Seven or Shane. So yeah, in this weird way, I do think that Nolan almost turns the Odyssey into a Western, which, okay, it's coming from an American director. It obviously is in a way inspired by American history and politics. So yeah, I'm not bothered by it. I just think it's a very actually interesting choice, and in a way a strange choice to end the Odyssey. I'm still kind of conflicted about the ending. I'm still not sure, would it be better for Nolan to just keep the original ending, or does this ending actually add another layer of depth to the story and complexity? I'm not sure myself, but definitely I really enjoyed watching this movie. Some of the most touching scenes in the movie, for me at least, happen in the middle of the movie. For example, when Odysseus goes to Hades, and just after his crew is leaving the Hades, one of the sailors asks, "Is this our fate?" And that really got to me, because we all know the answer. It is our fate, if you view it as a metaphor for death. But yeah, I would really recommend this movie. And you can tell me in the comment section, would you prefer the original ending or this new Christopher Nolan's ending? And do you agree with me that it is kind of a Western movie ending? Okay, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.